Okay.
Okay?
Okay, go get him. Go get him, Noreen.
Here we go.
Bye. Noreen, we're good to go.
You're not in.
No, I'm not in, but I'll get in, okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's 10 o'clock. Welcome. The first thing that we'd like to do is start with a beautiful video. So we're going to look at this video first.
It's no secret the world has changed and everyone is adjusting to this new normal.
What is our new normal?
Throughout these difficult times, one thing is certain: you are not alone. In some ways, this time brought us closer together.
It has reminded us of what we value the most.
Freedom to learn, to create, to be with each other and grow, and to keep our community safe.
We celebrate our talent and the bright, innovative staff who have worked together to keep our community safe.
Campbell Communities Ontario is
Home to our Campbell friends and family.
But it's really more than that. It is where we know we belong. This is where we connect.
We know our world has changed.
But through this, we have learned to help each other, to take time for what is important, to stay connected even with apart.
to ensure our community's most vulnerable never feel alone.
This isn't the first time we came together to support each other.
And it won't be the last.
After this past, we always appreciate this community we call Capital Communities Ontario.
Welcome to the joint Camphill Communities Ontario and Camphill Foundation Canada Annual General Meeting for 2020. We are so glad you could join us today. My name is Noreen McDonald, and I am the Chair of the Board of Directors for Camphill Communities Ontario. So just before we start our meeting, I'd like us to go through just some technical considerations. You have received an email from Sandra Mucci last week that detailed how we were going to do our virtual AGM, and hopefully you've had a chance to read those instructions so that we don't have any technical difficulties. I'm just going to start asking everybody, if you go down to the lower section of your screen, there's a chat button. If people would just enter their full name into the chat, so type your name into the chat and then push enter. That way we have a wonderful record of who's at the meeting. Our AGM should last about 1 hour, okay? Please note that the webinar is being recorded, and we will begin with, we're going to start with the business section for Camphill's Community Ontario, and then it will be followed with the business for Camphill's Foundation Canada. Audio and video functions are turned off, so that prevents noise disruption and minimizes our technical difficulties. If you experience any issues, you could email either Emily or Sandra, and hopefully you won't have to do that. Voting. What will happen is I will call a motion and someone will enter in, I second that motion. They'll say I second, or I move the motion and they type their name in the chat. I second. And then a poll will come up on your screen. When you look at that poll using your own keyboard, you can answer whether you approve, don't approve, or abstain. And once those results are in, I will let you know that the motion has been passed or not. Hopefully everything's passed. All members are eligible to vote and receive and you have received an AGM package in the mail. Unfortunately, the report for the annual general meeting, the physical report, was not able to be sent out because there was a small error. So that will be sent to you later. Please make sure you take the time to read it. It has wonderful information about all of our different accomplishments and challenges. So there is at the bottom of your screen a Q&A spot to ask questions if you have questions, or you could do it in the chat. We'll do our best to answer those questions if they come up. Okay, so now I think I can say that we have quorum, and I would like to call this meeting to order. The first thing on our agenda is a small report from our board, and I'm the one who has the honor of doing that. So welcome to our very first general meeting for Camphill Communities Ontario and Camphill Foundation Canada. COVID-19 has brought us a lot of challenges and changes, but we will find ways to beat back this virus safely in the near future. But for today, we're going to do our business virtually. I want to mention Mark McAllister, who was the chair of the board during our past fiscal year. Through our previous 3-year strategic plan, which ended this year in 2020. You should all have, sorry, you didn't get a chance to see the annual report, but please read it. And I would like to extend a very great thank you to Mark, to all our staff, our companions, our friends, and our volunteers for the incredible accomplishments made this year. We are now in the process of finalizing strategic plans for our next 5 years to ensure we continue to be a vibrant and growing community. Together, CCO and CFC hold 5 key values that keep us clear on our roles and responsibilities. 1, we strive to be relevant and innovative. 2, we look for ways to generate sustainable revenue, and we will work in partnership together with Camp Hill's Foundation Canada on our joint strategic plans. 3, we seek excellent opportunities for partnerships and community outreach. 4, we advocate for the rights, responsibilities, and contributions of Camp Hill companions and people of all abilities in our society. And 5, we work to be well governed and managed. Our annual general meeting is an important meeting. We complete legal responsibilities and reporting, as well as celebrate our successes and challenges as we learn, live, and work together. Normally, we have our AGM in June, but this year, because of a COVID pandemic, it is being delayed, and we're holding it now, today. Technology has been a wonderful tool to keep us connected, and we will keep using this tool. But I hope soon and in the future that we'll get back to celebrating together in person as soon as we can. So let's get down to business. The first thing on our agenda is to approve the minutes of our previous AGM. I'm looking for my notes here. Here they are. So in your package, people should have received the minutes of the last meeting. So I'm going to read a motion, and I need someone to move it and to second it, and then a poll will come up on the screen. So to approve the CCO AGM minutes from June 22nd, 2019. Do we have a mover and a seconder? Oh, Kevin Jackson, thank you for moving. Do we have a seconder? John Scarf is second. Thank you very much. And now we need the poll to come up on the screen so that people can, here we go. Excellent. And if people could just use your keyboard and sign in.
Okay. Oh, I can't.
And so we're just sort of waiting for everybody to either put in an approve or an oppose or an abstain. Okay, thank you. If you're sharing a computer, you can put your vote into the chat so that we can catch all of our votes. Okay. So bear with us. We're just going to make sure that we get all of our votes in. Technology, I gotta love it. If you are a panelist, you can't vote, just so that you know. Don't panic. You can put it in the chat, okay? So if for some reason for you, the poll on the screen isn't working, please put your vote in the chat and we'll make sure that it gets counted.
Janet also approves.
I just told them that they could do that, okay? Are we ready to accept the motion? I did. Okay, so thank you very much. We accept the motion. moved by, and I know I have to go back in my chat and have a look.
There we go.
There we go.
Could have been removed.
We did move it, and I'm just looking to see who it was. Oh, shoot. It was,
It was moved by, Kevin, seconded by John.
there you go. Moved by Kevin Jackson, seconded by John Scarf. Thank you so much. Okay, so we can close that and we can move on to our next item on our agenda. This meeting is pretty much business. I'd like to have us look at the auditor's financial report. That's a very important part of our meeting, looking at our finances from the last fiscal year ending March 31st, 2020. So I'd like to call on Svetlana Igorova. She is working with our auditor and accounting firm, Truster Zwig, and she's going to make a presentation of our audit financial statements for Camp-Hill Communities, Ontario.
Good morning, and thank you all for the opportunity to present the financial statements for Camp-Hill Communities, Ontario for you today. Before I start, I would like to let you know that the staff and management of Camp-Hill Communities, Ontario Inc. were exceptionally efficient and helpful this year in helping us to complete the audit. Especially thank you to Emily and Janice, who provided us with tremendous amount of support and were able to quickly adjust to those technological and logical challenges that were triggered by COVID-19 outbreak. Thank you. Let me begin by presenting our independent auditor's report, which can be found on pages 1 and 2 of the financial statements. We were able to provide a qualified opinion on these financial statements. The qualification, as described in the second part of this report, is very common to many non-for-profit organizations and resulted from deriving of revenue from general public as donations. Completeness of such revenue is not susceptible to satisfactory audit verification, unfortunately, and that's natural for many non-for-profit organizations. Except for this soft qualification, we were able to conduct our audit in accordance with Canadian generally accepted auditing standards. And in our opinion, except for the possible effects of the matter described, the financial statements present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the organization as at March 31st, 2020, and the results of its operations and cash flows for the year then ended in accordance with Canadian accounting standards for not-for-profit organizations. I will provide a few highlights of the financial statements for you very briefly. If you could please open page 3 of the financial statements, where a statement of financial position is presented. Just a few highlights on major changes from prior year. The organization had no cash available at year end and had to borrow a net of approximately $50,000, which represents a reduction of $160,000 from last year. There's a good reason for that. The main reason for that was acquisition of farm equipment and motor vehicle. And the organization spent approximately $92,000 to acquire those assets, of which approximately $30,000 were financed through grants. $20,000 was received from the Camp-Hill Foundation Canada, and $10,000 was generated from the Bingo Fund. In terms of facility to borrow, the organization has access to $200,000 operating line of credit facility with Toronto-Dominion Bank, which bears interest at Toronto-Dominion's prime rate plus 1% per annum. Accounts receivable, in the most part, are represented by accounts receivable from Camphill Foundation Canada and Camphill Houses Inc. And they didn't change that much from last year, just as we expected. Government remittances, as you will notice, have been in a payable position at the year end, due mainly to payroll remittances for the months of February and March. And since the organization was short of cash, they were able to delay those payments until April and May. The farm equipment that I mentioned was purchased was represented by maple syrup farm equipment and a motor vehicle van for day program use. Fair market value of the properties by far exceeds the book value that is recorded on the financial statements. So there is no concern about impairment there. Accounts payable and accrued liabilities reduced significantly, as you can notice, and that is mainly due to approximately $100,000 that was included into last year's balance and represented retroactive pay accrual, which was not applicable in the current year. There was a increase in deferred revenue by approximately 80%, which is represented by 5 more grants received in the year in respect to events and activities of the next fiscal year. So we deferred those grants to be used next year. The term loan is payable to Toronto-Dominion Bank, and terms and repayment schedule for this loan can be found in Note 7 to the financial statements. Loan payable is to Camphill Foundation Canada, and it's payable monthly, interest only, so the principal remains unchanged. And that's all on this statement. If you could turn a page and look at the statement of operations and changes in net assets now, you will notice that revenue overall was fairly consistent with prior year as expected. Additional $50,000 was received from the Ministry of Community and Social Services to allow for increases in certain expenses. There was an increase in the program revenue, mainly due to increase in hourly rate from $12 to $15 in the year. Subsidies for special projects represent subsidies from the Ministry of Communities and Social Services for the small maintenance on Algoma houses. There was some exterior repairs and plumbing job done. Expenditures on these special projects were incurred, included in expenses of approximately $47,000. And if we quickly go over expenses, major highlights are increase in food expenses was driven by higher food cost in the year. There's nothing else. Increase in salaries and employees' benefits was caused by a 3% pay raise effective April 1st, 2019, and more staff employed in the current year. Significant repairs and maintenance expenses were incurred in the prior year, and less was needed in the current year. Purchased services reduction was due to better allocation of expenses to other expense lines. Small water works reduced from last year due to a one-time treatment system repair last year, which was not needed in 2012. So overall deficiency of revenue over expenses before amortization was $40,000 as compared to $48,000 excess last year. So the organization didn't have enough money to operate by $40,000 this year, basically. And cash reduced by $110,000 this year. However, there is, like I said earlier, there is a significant deferred revenue that's available for next year's projects. And as organization is getting back to normal after the COVID-19 outbreak change, they should be able to generate the cash that they need to operate. I believe that's all I have to say on these statements. The statements are followed by notes to the financial statements, beginning from page 6 of the financial statements. And you can read them at your free time. I have already highlighted a few notes to you. And I guess if you have any questions, I'm prepared to answer your questions now. Any questions to me? No questions?
Are there any questions? So if there, would we like to wait a few seconds more?
Sure.
If not, I will call the question, and if people are still thinking, you can put it forward. Okay, I will call the question, which is to approve the CCO financial audit ending March 31st, 2020. Can I have someone move that? Okay, that's moved by Alan. Can I have a seconder? Seconded by Kevin Jackson. Now a poll will come up on your screen. If everybody could make their contributions to the screen. And again, hosts and panelists cannot vote. So if you have voting privileges, you can put them on the chat, please. Okay, that motion has been approved. Thank you very much. Okay, now we're going to move on to our next item on the agenda, which is an important one. It is the appointment of our auditor again for another year. So this one I think is relatively straightforward. I'm going to read a motion, and again I would ask for a mover and a seconder. To appoint Truster Zig LLP as CCO's auditor for 2020-21. Could I have a mover for that? Janet Scarf is moving it. Can I have a seconder?
That's John.
John? No, it was Janet.
Yeah.
To move.
Okay.
I'm waiting for someone to second the motion. Okay, Kevin Rich has seconded the motion. And again, we'll have the screen up on the thing, and if people could put in their votes. So the motion is to appoint Troster-Zwig as the auditor for our next fiscal year, 2020-2021. Moved by Janet Scarf, seconded by Kevin. Kevin Rich. Seconded by Kevin Rich. Thank you. So we just wait till we count everybody's vote. There we go. They're coming in. Technology, you gotta love it. Approved. This motion is passed. Thank you very much. Now we have some important business to continue with, which is a report from the nominating committee. So we can move to the next section of our agenda. It's important to have a board to support our organization. And I'm going to call on John Molnar to take this section of the meeting. John?
Good morning. Thank you, Madam Chair. Am I unmuted and clear?
Yes, we can hear you fine.
Okay. A report for 2020. The committee has been active again this year. In addition to nominating 7 candidates to the board over the past 2 years, this year we have also done development of terms of reference for all the Camp Hill board subcommittees. We submitted terms of reference templates for the use of the committee chairs. We prepared an executive performance measurement tool and initiated the Camp Hill Fall Fair recruiting table for board candidates and other volunteers. Also, organized a spring drive-through at the village on Mother's Day to celebrate our frontline staff during this pandemic, and to give a remote shout out to the companions as well. So I'm delighted to present to you a slate of wonderful candidates, and on behalf of the board, we're presenting these 3 people for approval today by the membership at large. Kathy Charlton is an administrative professional, 25 years experience. She is currently the executive coordinator at Hospice Simcoe. Her role is to provide administrative and governance support to the executive director and oversee office management. She was previously at the Royal Victoria Regional Health Center in Barrie as governance and philanthropy coordinator. Prior to that, she was operations director at Gilda's Club in Barrie. Kathy studied business accounting and human resource management at Georgian College, and she's volunteered in many locations and served as board chair at Simcoe Community Services, as well as, amongst others, Rainbows Canada and the RVH Palliative Care Unit. Kathy's daughter, Chloe, is a companion at Camp Hill in Barrie. Howard Vanier. Howard was born and raised in Montreal, moved to Toronto in 1992. He's been married for 39 years to Donna. They have 3 adult children. His son Jeff has attended Camp Hill Day programs for the past 4 summers, which has also served as his introduction to the Camp Hill communities in both Nottawasaga and Sophia Creek. Since moving to Ontario, Howard has worked in numerous positions in global supply chain management within the technology sector primarily. More recently, he has become an entrepreneur as owner and general manager of his own business in the construction sector. His interest in joining the board was initiated through particular interest in community-oriented housing opportunities, adults with intellectual disabilities, and specifically by desire to help expand the available housing at Nottawasaga location. Mike Palermo works full-time in the agricultural industry. He's currently sales manager at Savita International, involved with soybean marketing. He has a degree in agriculture, honors BSc in agriculture from the University of Guelph, and he's also pursuing his MBA also at University of Guelph. Mike has a passion for business and real estate. He's looking to bring both those interests with him to Camp Hill Board to help make a difference. In his spare time, Mike enjoys spending time with friends, family, his 4-year-old golden retriever. He can often be found outdoors exploring nature. I'd also like to mention, I thank you to outgoing board members, Mark McAllister. Mark joined the board in 2013, became board chair in 2015, and helped shepherd Camp Hill through the past several years, which have been extremely interesting times. Mark is also well-versed in the values and ideals of anthroposophy. Eleanor Murchison retired from the board to move to Quebec. She spent 20 years of service within life sharing in the village. 5 years of service as a residential supervisor. And for the past year, she's been a board member at Camp Hill. So I will make a motion. Move to appoint Kathy Charlton, Mike Palermo, Howard Vanier as candidates to the board of directors. I shall move, and I'll ask for a second.
Okay, so that motion has been moved by John Molnar, and we need a seconder. Oh, Kevin Jackson has seconded. Can we have the poll up on the screen so that people can vote in that motion? Lovely, thank you. There we are. We're just waiting for final votes to come in. I gotta say thank you very much, everybody, for the technological support that we're getting here. It's quite lovely. This motion has been passed. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. That's wonderful. The next part of our agenda is, again, a very important part of our agenda, which is to talk about the installation of the new team, the new board that is now going to help govern and manage our organization, okay? So I'm going to now pass this section of the meeting to Chuck Kidd. Chuck, are you there? Can you take it from here?
Hello, Noreen. Thank you so much.
Great. Okay, thanks.
All directors have made the following solemn pledge: to surrender to the duties of your offices and according to the values and objectives of this association, and do promise to discharge faithfully the duties pertaining to your office. In return, I ask that the members of Camp Hill Communities Ontario promise to support their directors and cooperate with them earnestly and sincerely in putting forward the work of this organization. Furthermore, to pledge your loyal support to all efforts and to realize those high purposes for which the organization stands. In light of these pledges, I now declare that the directors of Camp Hill Communities Ontario are fully installed in place for the coming year, 2020-2021. Noreen McDonald, Chris Wheeler, John Moeller, Kevin Jackson, John Scarf, Elaine Sano, Mike Beard, Kathy Charlton, Mike Palermo, and Howard Vanier.
Thank you very much, Chuck. That is great. And normally at this time, we'd probably raise a glass, have some really good home-cooked food, celebrate, shake hands, maybe have some music, show off some art, hand out some flowers. But you know, we're just doing the best that we can here, okay? And what I'd like to do is say that we have concluded the business part of what we need to do, and we will find ways to celebrate in a little bit more fun way later on. But I would like to say a motion. I need someone to move a motion to adjourn the CCO, Camp Hill Communities Ontario AGM for 2020. And do we have a seconder? I move, John Scarf. Do we have a seconder? Kevin Jackson. Thank you very much. We'll put up a poll and we'll just wait for everybody to vote that we have adjourned our meeting. And don't leave yet. We just have a few more things we have to do, which is another AGM. It will be shorter, but we need your participation for the Camp Hill Foundation Canada AGM, which is going to follow. It won't take too long. I miss seeing your wonderful faces. There we go. Okay, we have approval. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. This section of our meeting is adjourned. And now I'm going to hand the meeting over to Kevin Rich, who is the chairperson for the Camp Hills Foundation Canada Board. Kevin, are you there?
Good morning, everyone.
Great.
Thank you, Noreen. My name is Kevin Rich, and I am the chair of Camp Hill Foundations Canada. And I'm very pleased to have everyone join us today. And I wish we were doing this in person, but we'll have to work on that for next time. Before we jump into the formal business of the AGM, I just wanted to give a quick snapshot of some of the work that we've been doing over the last year, ending March 31st, 2020. So COVID-19 has brought us some real challenges, but it's also presented some opportunities. Since our last AGM, we made some pretty good headway in raising funds for CCO and its companions. In 2019, we granted over $85,000 towards various programming needs of Camp Hill Communities Ontario for things like vocational programs, social and recreational initiatives, and new learning opportunities. A great example of one of those programs is the much expanded and enhanced maple syrup operation at the Nottawasaga community, which several companions are able to participate in. Another success that they were really, really grateful for is the Ripple of Kindness grant that we received for $27,000 from donors in the Greater Barrie area. And this was the result of a real effective collaboration between staff with Camp Hill Foundation and with Camp Hill Communities. And worth noting that with the help of our very best ambassadors, which are our companions. And perhaps more important than the funding itself, although we are hugely grateful for that funding, is the fact that this grant is comprised of $100 donations from a total of 270 donors. So those are people that now believe in and are now connected to Camp Hill and to the foundation. So that's a significant success for us this year, and which we're very grateful for. In terms of an annual report, we're in a similar position as Camp Hill is. We have a report that's ready to send out, and we hope to send it out prior to the meeting, but we will be sending that out electronically to our members and our supporters early next week. So please keep your eyes open for that communication. And so I guess at this point, we'll start the official portion of the meeting. And the agenda will look very similar to the agenda that we just did with the CCO AGM. So a lot of this will be familiar for you folks. So I think the first order of business, if we can have do we have a slide for the approval of our minutes? Thank you. So our first order of business is to approve the minutes of our 2019 AGM, which was held on June 22nd in 2019. And if I could ask someone to make a motion to approve those minutes, please. Thank you. I see, and I should have mentioned earlier that those minutes have been shared with our members. And I see it. We have John Scarf as a mover, and Elizabeth has seconded. Thank you. So now we'll put that to a vote. So if I could have all members please cast their vote on the online polling tool. Thank you, Janet. We'll just bear with us, folks, while everyone gets the chance to tick off the box there on the online poll. Thanks, everybody, for your patience. Okay, so up on my screen, I see that we have approval of the motion to approve the minutes. Thank you, everybody. Our next order of business is the review and approval of our official audited financial statements. And at this point, I'd like to ask Rose Sands of our accounting firm, Truster Zweig, Chartered Professional Accountants, to present our audited financial statements for the year ending March 31st, 2020.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Everyone can hear me. My name is Gareth Sands. I'm from the firm of Truster Swag here in Richmond Hill. The first thing I want to do is thank Emily and our staff for making sure that we can issue these statements on a timely basis. So we'll go straight to the financial statements, and you're following along, we'll go straight to page 1. There's numbers at the bottom of the page. Go to page 1, I guess that's 3 pages in. That's the independent auditor's report. I just want to say this is the same report that we issued in the previous year. It's a qualified report. It's a report that's standard to most charitable organizations, and it's nothing strange to see this sort of report. Other than that qualification, we normally say that these accompanying financial statements present fairly at the year end. So it's what you would expect to have. Okay. We've dated the financial statements being today, which is September 19, 2020, which is the date that I'm assuming they will be approved by the annual general meeting. So we'll go straight to the statement of financial position, which is page 3. And on this page, you can see that your total assets went from 1.226 million last year, and it dropped down to 1.059 this year, $166,000. And I'll try and explain why some of that happened during this communication. So the first thing we'll notice is that cash also dropped by $106,000, and that's mainly because there was less revenue this year compared to expenses. In fact, we spent more than we collected. We also spent some monies paying down the accounts payable and using the funds that was sitting in deferred revenue. The accounts receivable is sitting at $5,000. That's just a horse grant that we collected after the year end. The marketable securities dropped from 724 to 666. That's about $58,000. And the majority of that is mainly due to a drop in the fair market value of these securities, which that's been recovered since the year end. Loans receivable is pretty consistent with the previous year. Property and equipment, again, that's also consistent with the prior year. That's basically the amortization from year to year. On the liabilities side, you can see that accounts payable is now at $33,000. Prior year it was $71,000. So we paid off a lot of the older payables from the previous year. Most of those payables were to Camp Hill communities. Deferred revenue went from $20,000, it's now down to $2,700. And those are funds that we used in the current year for approved activities. The net assets, therefore, decreased by $110,000. And that's really the deficiency of revenue over expenses. On the next page is the statement of operations and changes in net assets. And this shows your revenue and expenses for the year and how you operated for the full year ended March 31st, 2020. The first thing we should look at is revenue. And you can see that revenue dropped by about $30,000 to $207,000. Most of that occurred in the contributions. And that was because we had less project-specific items going on, and in general, less donations were received. On the expenses side, expenses went up by $72,000 to $271,000. And there were 3 key areas in there. The first one was in grants. We gave Camp Hill communities about $20,000 more than we gave them last year. So that was a significant increase. Professional fees dropped by about $15,000. There was some money spent hiring or searching for an executive director in the prior year, so they went down this year. Salaries and wages increased by $60,000, and that was because we hired 1 new staff for about $60,000. You would note that there's a note attached to the grants and the salaries and wages. It's note 2C. I'll just go to that right now. So note 2C basically says that in addition to monetary grants that the foundation gave to Camp Hill communities, they also provided a benefit in respect to the use of the staff member by Camp Hill communities. And the value of that was about $20,000. Okay. So back to statement of operations and changes. Revenue less expenses, we end up spending $64,000 more than we collected. There were some other earnings and expenses. We had gained on the sale of some of our marketable securities of $61,000. And then we had this big adjustment for the fair market value of these securities, $125,000. That is significant, and it was because of COVID-19. And like I said before, most of that has been recovered by now because the market has recovered since then. End of the year, we had excess of revenue over expenses of $127,000. We started the year with net assets of $1.13 million. We transferred into this fund from our restricted fund $17,000. So at the end of the year, we ended up with net assets of $1,023,000. The next page is a statement of cash flows. And on this cash flow, it basically just tells you where your cash is coming from and how you're spending your cash. So the first section talks about operating activities. Halfway down that page, it says cash flows provided by operating activities. It says we used $115,000 of cash. We spent. And then there's a marketable activities. It says we used $6,000 to buy more marketable securities. We used $1,700 to buy computer equipment. And on the financing side, it says we transferred into this fund $17,000 of new cash. So for the whole year, we spent $106,000. We started the year with $175,000 of cash, and therefore we ended the year with $69,000. Okay. The rest of the financial statements consist of notes, and most of these notes are basically the same as last year, so I'm not going to go through them again like I did last year, but you can spend your time and read them as you feel you want to. The first one deals with the purpose of organization, and the second one deals with significant accounting policies. These are policies that accountants use to sort of provide consistency between the various financial statements to make so that anyone looking at any statements can feel comfortable that they are prepared the same way. Okay. So I will leave those up for you to read at your pleasure. If there's any questions, I'll be glad to answer them if I could. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Guru. I really appreciate that. Thanks for walking us through that. It's quite an art to be able to distill so many numbers and so many line items into a few minutes summary. So that's terrific. And yeah, you're welcome. We'll keep our eye on the chat function here to see if anyone does have any questions or comments for either Guru or myself. And then we'll make very shortly, I'll ask for someone to make a motion to approve the audited financial statements prepared by Trusters Weg LLP. And there we go. Okay, so I'm not seeing any questions, and we'll keep an eye on it, and some of my counterparts will help me keep an eye on that chat window to see if there are any questions in that respect. And so I will, at this point, ask for someone to move a motion to approve the CFC Financial Audited Report for the period ending March 31st, 2020. Okay, thank you, Julian. And I need a seconder for that motion, if I could. Thank you, Elizabeth. And if we could move now to the approving or opposing abstaining window, that would be terrific. While we're waiting for that, for folks to enter their vote on that motion, I'll just mention that we quite recently finalized those audited statements, working with Gro and his team. And we will be distributing those financial statements, audited financial statements, to our membership. So I appreciate everyone's patience, but you can expect to see those in short order. All right, I'm seeing a few approvers on our chat. And I'll also give a shout out to our treasurer, Julian Scarf, and Emily Allward, and some other staff at CCO who have been instrumental in helping us compile those financial statements and to work with our auditors. So thank you to all of those folks for getting this important document put together. Okay, great. I see the poll up here, and we have approval for that motion. Thank you, everybody. The next official order of business is the approval of the appointment of auditors, Custer Zweig LLP, as auditors for our next fiscal year. So if I could ask someone to make a motion to appoint Custer Zweig LLP as CFC's auditor for the next fiscal year. Thanks, Julian, for moving that. I need a seconder as well from John. Thank you very much. And now we will ask the membership to cast their vote on that motion. I'm very grateful for everyone who's joining us today, and I'll give a particular shout out to the Scarf family. I think they might win the prize for the fastest replies on the chat box. If I had a prize to offer up for folks, I would certainly offer that up, but I just don't know how to do that when I'm sitting in front of my screen in my spare room. But the next time we cross paths, I'll remember. Okay, so I see the polling results up there. Thank you all. We have approval of that motion. So moving along, and we're close to the finish line here. I would just like to take a minute to talk about the our current slate of board members and to confirm their standing for the current fiscal year. Before I go through the list of our current board of directors, I'd like to recognize the contributions of our past president, Neil Evans. Neil resigned from the board in March, and I'd like to thank Neil for all his efforts and all his energy while serving as president for 2 years at a time when we made some significant changes in the foundation, including bringing on Kathy Downs as our executive director for revenue development. So I thank Neil for his time there, served as president, and prior to that as a director. So for this fiscal year ending March 31st, 2020, I'm happy to confirm the following slate of directors of the board for Campbell Foundation Canada. So we have Julian Scarf, who's also serving as our treasurer. We have Elizabeth Molnar, our newest director and by far the most technologically savvy director on our board. We have Christine Shirata, who brings significant business and human resources experience to the board. And Terry Kirk, our longest standing director and former president of CFC, as well as myself. So I'd like to thank each of those directors for committing again to stand as directors for the CFC board. And I'd also just like to take this moment to thank Kathy Downs, our executive director for revenue development, for all the work she's done and the accomplishments she's made over the last year. So thank you to Kathy. And so with that, that wraps up the official business of our annual general meeting for the foundation. And what we'll do at this point is to officially end the meeting. We'll have another vote, and then I have a quick wrap up comment, and then I'll say my goodbyes. So we need a motion to conclude the 2020 AGM for Camp Hill Foundations Canada. If I could have someone move. I have a mover, thank you. And so I have a mover by Elizabeth Molnar, sorry. And mover, a seconder is Julian Scarf. And if we could have a vote on that motion, folks, one last time, and then that will conclude the official part of the business here. While folks are casting their votes or waiting for that vote to be completed, if there are any other comments, questions, any type of queries, please feel free to put that in the chat line or to contact anyone on our board or Kathy Downs at your convenience, and please let us know. We certainly want to make ourselves available and in any way we can. So please feel free to reach out to us at a time of your convenience.
So Kevin, I just want a little celebratory piece here that we are now this coming fiscal year celebrating our 35th anniversary as an organization. And we're going to have some celebrations coming up this year, just to let everybody know. And also just to say that the documentation that didn't get emailed out will get emailed out on the Monday, the annual general report with all of the details of our accomplishments. So okay. Thanks so much for everybody.
Excellent, excellent. Thanks, Noreen. So I see our poll is put up there, and we do have approval for the motion to adjourn the meeting. And I'll just say, in final quick thoughts, from the foundation side of things, we're truly grateful for the donations that we've received, particularly at a time like this. we truly benefit from having very generous and passionate supporters who know that Camp Hill makes a profound difference for the people we serve. And I feel really confident that the collaboration and the support and, you know, the cross-pollination of ideas and the shared energy between the foundation and Camp Hill communities that we saw last year is only going to grow in the years ahead. I should say. And that's to the great benefit of our residents and the others who join us for day programs. So on behalf of the companions and the staff and the board of directors of both CCO and CFC, thank you so much for your support and taking the time to join us today. Noreen, did you want to have any parting comments to provide to the membership?
Well, I'd just like to say thanks, everybody. Have a wonderful Saturday. Thanks so much for your support and your love. And we will see you soon. And stay safe, stay well, be kind.
Thank you, everyone. Yes, please do take care and enjoy the rest of your weekend. Bye for now.
Bye, everybody. Take care. I left the meeting.
Beautiful. That went smoothly.